Super Tennis Champ kills every other tennis game on the Amiga, SNES, or Mega Drive. It's Amigos, everything Amiga. Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about Super Tennis Champs. Now, Aaron, in some respect, I will yield to your expertise because, as some people may be aware, you did a little bit of the tennising.
I did.
Sort of an Alfred Lloyd Tennyson back in the day.
Wow, that's not bad. I was more like Squire Tennyson, the guy that gets Lord Tennyson's firewood. Yeah, I actually lettered in tennis in high school, if you can believe that, back in the day.
What does it take to earn a letter?
You have to make the team. Make the team, you're in. And I was probably the lowest rung on the totem pole. I was the biggest, lumberingest. I was the Cactus Jack Manson of tennis.
But
basically.
you didn't play in middle school.
No.
So you just kind of walked in.
I only played 1 year of high school. My senior year is the only year I played, yeah.
It's a pretty amazing. It's kind of like the movie about the guy that made the Eagles, you know, just kind of walking on.
Well, it's not like that because sports in high school has changed exponentially since before today. Like now, like for example, if I rolled in and said, I want to be on the golf team, they'd laugh their butts off. They're not going to let me on the golf team. Those guys are like,
It's because you're 67 years old.
No, that's a good point. But let's pretend I was back in high school. Okay. It's one of those movies where I go undercover. I think I could pull it off. But because their expectations are way higher. Like the baseball teams now, it's like state ranked in the top couple in the state of soccer and blah, blah, blah. In the old days, football was important. Basketball was important. Women's basketball, it was up there, and that was it. No one else cared about any of the other loser sports.
Right.
And so, like, bam, to be on the tennis team, you're like maybe a couple of steps up from being in the band. Hey, still, you're going up.
You're ascending.
And so, when I was in high school, me and Hose and Rich and some other friends of mine, we played a lot of tennis just for fun. And so, Rich was like, listen, I'm going to go out for the tennis team. So, me and him and Hose, and we all went out for it, and we made the team somehow because we didn't play that much in actual school matches, but occasionally we'd get called on if somebody was like not around.
It seems like it's a pretty good gig. You make the team, you get the letter, and you don't really have the responsibility of actually playing in the matches.
The problem is when you may be stunned, Derez, and I'm sure I probably told some of these tales the last time we covered a tennis game 1,000 episodes ago, but I think I can get away with saying them again. You know, when I played, I was never a small man, all right? I was always a big kind of tubby guy. So I had to make up for my shortcomings by killing myself out there. I mean, diving, throwing the racket back for between hands to hit shots.
I do that sometimes.
All the stupidest crap, running to the fence.
You ever throw the racket at the ball?
No. I think that's an illegal shot.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, and I could beat the second rung of guys on any given day.
Sure.
But consistently, I couldn't beat them. And so consistency is key. Plus, anyone that knew anything knew that the only reason I was able to beat these guys is because maybe they had an off day and I was a moron because you can't keep just. My body was covered in like scars and stuff. I mean, it was mauled. My legs are mauled. I would have my shorts be bloody and stuff when I get done because I was doing so much stupid crap. So I still made the team.
You caught the coach's eye, though, I bet, when you did that.
No. I don't know if the coach even knew my name, hardly, barely. And then me and Hose were a doubles team because Hose is even worse than I was because Hose.
I have a hard time picturing Hose in motion, to be honest with you.
Well, there was a time. He was grease lightning. Not really. He was like, think about in D&D terms, like he was sort of like, I was like half orc and he was like dwarf, basically. And he served like a howitzer. Like if he got the ball in, if he could hone it in.
Right.
You know how they have those dudes that give you like coordinates when you're on the battlefield? We need one of those guys for tennis.
Right.
So like Hose, like 2 degrees right. Because Hose would hit the ball like a demon, but he had horrible aim.
It's like Wild Thing.
And of course, as I mentioned, he many times hit me in the back serving.
Ooh.
And sometimes he would hit me with the racket while serving.
That's even worse.
Trip or whatever, kill me. Like, give me those Jim Cornette.
It's a shame that, a lot of these moments weren't captured on video.
No, it's not good. It's not, but It was. Hey, listen, I can say that I lettered in sport.
Heck yeah.
And get away with it because I did.
I didn't letter in nothing.
You know. So, but yeah, I have. At the time, I was a big fan of actual tennis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I grew up. Borg was a little bit before my time, but you know, like McEnroe and Yvonne Lindo and all those guys and all the women that were big in the day. I was into that. And it's funny because now I can't sit down and watch tennis to save my life. I can't do it.
Tough.
You know,
watch.
but at the time, were you ever into it how heavy?
No, you know, Eep sort of introduced me to tennis. She's introduced me into a lot of things that I used to not do.
I can believe Eep is a tennis fan.
She loves tennis. In fact, her ex-boyfriend owns a tennis club.
Oh.
So, yeah. So
Good thing it's going to you in a restaurant now.
Yeah. So, you know, it's, but she's, and so she kind of got me into it. She taught me the rules. I didn't know what the rules were and stuff like that. Yeah. I didn't know anything.
She taught you the rules?
Yeah.
So, did you not play any tennis games on the video games when you were a kid?
Yeah, but I mean, I just hit the ball. I never paid attention to, like, how to actually, you can get away with a lot playing video game tennis.
I guess so. I'm stunned because someone like yourself, I thought maybe would have been a tennis guy.
Well, you know, I played a lot of ping pong, but ping pong rules are different.
Yeah, they are.
You know, and so I always just assumed they were the same. So, like, the whole thing, like, you don't lose possession when you are serving and somebody else gets a point. Stuff like that I didn't realize.
What do you think is a more manly sport? Ping pong or actual tennis? Or that pickleball?
Pickleball should not be in the conversation. That's an affront to God and man.
That stuff's taken off. Is that other countries have pickleball?
No, it's only for the lazy, which is us.
I don't know, because I don't know, I may have mentioned this to you, but me and Wes went out, like, we'd been in Lexington for years, and we were like, hey, you know, we both used to play tennis. We were both autistic. Let's go out and have a couple of rounds of tennis. We went to the local park, and it was the most pathetic display of out-of-shape geekery. I mean, it was horrible. We were so embarrassed that we only played just for like an hour and left. We were so humiliated. So pickleball might be the way to go.
You know, when I was, a couple of years ago, we had that exchange student. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
So she came over here, and she was ready to play. She's a tennis star.
Pickleball?
She was a tennis star in France.
Yeah,
And, you know, Eep and I would play against each other, and, you know, Eep is better than I am, of course, but I could hold my own. I could score on her a couple times.
Yeah. How old was that kid?
17.
Yeah.
This kid, it's over. She serves it, and it's somewhere I'm not, and I'm not getting there.
Well,
you know?
Tennis is big in France.
It is.
The big
it's
F.
huge.
The big T is big and the big F.
It is, yeah. So, but yeah, that's my tennis story. What's yours? Leave us a comment.
Yeah, I'd love to hear him. That I would love to hear. But.
Aaron, let's talk about Super Tennis Champs.
Super! You got to give it a little more jack.
Super 80.
That's the kind of music I think of when I think of tennis right there,
yeah.
Boat.
Get you hyped. That's what they're listening to at Wimbledon.
Right up your alley, man.
And they got the strawberries and cream and all that stuff.
The thing is, it might be. It might be,
so.
Boat. So, Boat, had you played Super Tennis before today?
Never.
Or not today, but whenever.
I never played Super Tennis Champs before today.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit here, shall we? So this is in fact, I'm going to sort of let you start off since you played the original. This started off its life as basically a cover disc.
That's right.
You tried the cover disc. Do you know the story behind that? I've got a little story here.
I don't know anything about it. Tell me.
When Elton Bird coded this as a public domain game, and sent it, and Amiga format got hold of it, and so they were like, man, this is really good. We sent it over to Amiga Power as a cover disc, and then they sent it to Autogenic for commercial evaluation. You know what that means? They were like, this is too good.
Right.
And so Autogenic was like, we need to release this sucker. And so they asked that it be recoded from Amos into Blitz Basic. So they got somebody to recode it, and then they had all the extra stuff added in, like, computer doubles, partners, and doubles, and they basically expounded upon what it actually was when they originally got hold of it. And lo and behold, what you got here was a release, and that release was Super Tennis Champs in '95, again, published by Autogenic. And they credit the developer this for mental software, which basically probably just didn't exist until they just basically made it.
That happened a lot.
Again, this was designed by Elton Bird, the Birdman, if you will, and was coded by Elton and Raymond Price. Now, listen to this. They didn't just, you could tell they brought on some ringers here, Boat. Raymond Price worked on Bubble and Squeak, and the other guy, Alex Slater, who helped code this, also worked on Bubble and Squeak. And the graphics were done by Pat Fox, who also worked on Bubble and Squeak, and Jeremy Willard, who worked on Wembley International Soccer. And so they brought in some people that had done some real commercial stuff. Bubble and Squeak, pretty good game. And they released this into the wild. Now, you actually told me you actually sat down and played the original Tennis Champs. How was it?
It is very, very similar. When did you say that? Did you say this was recoded from Amos into Blitz or from into Blitz Basic in between Tennis Champs and Super Tennis Champs?
Yeah, this was recoded. But so they had the original was released as a cover disc. Then they recoded this one.
Okay,
so the one we're looking at was the recoded into Blitz Basic.
Because I didn't see a huge difference. I'm not sure why they did that because the game plays almost identically.
Really?
At least it did to me. The big difference that I noticed was that there were just far fewer options, of course, and you had about half the roster. But still, you still had like 9 guys, so it was a fair amount.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. We should also mention, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later. They also had a couple of data disc release for this, women's character disc and mixed doubles character disc, and we'll chat about that in a minute. Of course, again, this was in Blitz Basic. It worked on the OCS. I will say one thing about this. And when you look at the history of this game, this makes sense. They took that original game, and I don't know how many people that supported the original. I'm guessing they just supported like 1, maybe 2 players. This version, Super Tennis Champs, supports up to 1 to 4 simultaneous players. You can use the old parallel port gimmick, okay? And this is one of the few Amiga games I've ever seen that supports 1, 2, or 6 buttons. 6!
That's incredible.
I couldn't believe that.
Now, from what I saw, and maybe I just didn't dig deep enough in the options, I know that the CD32 version has multi-button support, but you're saying that the regular AGA version does too?
I don't think there's I didn't even see a CD32 version.
Oh yeah,
there's not one credited on here. That's why I didn't see one.
I heard it mentioned in a review. That's why I'm mentioning it.
I think maybe it's mentioned the stick, but the stick is supported.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I used it. You know, it's funny. I tried 1, 2, and 6 buttons. Mm-hmm. 6 buttons is actually almost too much because
that's a lot.
You're so not used to it. But what they do is they split the shots up. Mm-hmm. And many times in many games, I've thought to myself, man, I wish these shots were individual buttons. And so I think if I got into this game more, that might be the way I would play it.
Yeah.
But if it's still 2 buttons and 1 button, it does a decent job.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can play 4 people simultaneous, very fine. So when they went and fooled with this thing, they beefed it up considerably.
Right.
You know, you got to give them credit. So, Boat, explain to the fine folks, what exactly is Super Tennis Champs all about?
Okay. Well, Super Tennis Champs, first of all, I think if you look at the gameplay on our screen, we actually slowed down Infestation last week. And so you're seeing Super Tennis Champs a little bit slower than it actually is in real life. This game is a fast-moving tennis game. We've played multiple tennis games in the past that have kind of scrolled along in a snail's pace. I remember we played one from some French studio, and it was trying to be 3D, and it was just really, really crawling. This game moves, and it moves fast. This is basically what they've done is they've taken what I would consider to be the classic tennis viewpoint, which is sort of a above, like well above court level. You're looking down, you can see almost exactly the same amount of court on both sides. And they've given you a roster of 32 players. Each player has different capabilities. And this is a game, one of the things I really like about this game is they don't give you stat blocks. You know, they don't give you gauges. They don't give you numbers out of 10. What they say is like, this guy's got a good serve, but he's sort of weak on the volley.
Yeah.
You know, they make it seem real. which I appreciated.
The people look like just schmoes.
Yeah, and not everybody, and one of our reviewers mentioned this, I think Pajako did, not everybody looks like a ripped Italian stallion.
No, yeah.
You've got everybody from guys that do look like that. You've got a tubby bald guy, which he was my favorite.
That's a guy I play too. But but that does that gives it a little more accessibility to your, because like you said, most people can identify with a goof that rolls in, and so I like that. I agree with you.
Speaking
on that.
of the goof that rolls in, we should probably take a moment to discuss the box of this game.
The box is something not special. Let's face facts.
You know, the box of this game is a guy. It's a photograph of a man, and it's not a cool looking man. It's a lame looking man, and he is holding a racket in one of the geekiest ways possible. He looks like me out there.
The look at his face, he's like, tennis.
Why this was chosen to be like, boy, this is going to make it fly off the shelf. This is just beyond
When you
me.
told me that was the box, because I thought that was an ad, I thought, my God, who would use that? But we've seen some bad boxes. How does this one compare to that pool box?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's pretty bad,
my
too.
all-time favorite.
Yeah.
Just blank.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's worse, this or the blank.
Oh, well, this one is much better. This one's much better.
This
because
does give you an idea of what you're going to be playing. Just a goofy tennis game with a freak in it.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, you've essentially got all of the options you would come to expect. So you can choose how many games you want to play, how many matches you want to play, how many sets are in each game. You know, all of those options are available to you. 3
different services.
Yeah, you've got clay, grass, and what's the last one?
So like cement, basically, like the hard court.
Right, hard court, right. So, and of course the ball.
Did you say lunar? Can you imagine trying to get, my God, don't hit a lob on that one. That thing
It'll never come back, yeah. So now, you might ask yourself, well, what makes this? Because at the beginning, I made a stunning claim. I said that this is the best 16-bit tennis game. I'll tell you why. This is the only game that I can compare to what I consider to be the ultimate best tennis game of all time. Actually, there's two. There's 2 ultimate tennis games of all time. And I bet you know one of them.
Okay.
One of them is Virtua Tennis for the Sega Dreamcast. Okay.
Yep, that's the one that came to my mind. Although it's not 32, it's 32-bit. But yeah, it is great.
The other one is Mario Tennis for the Game Boy Advance.
It's good. Well, I don't know. I haven't played that.
That one is my personal favorite.
We had it on the Wii.
But Mario Tennis on the N64 or the Wii one's different because you got the motion controls.
Yeah, it's fun.
But but on the N64 or the GBA, those games are very, very good.
GBA, we're going to try that sometime.
We should. We've got the 2-player thing. This game controls like a console game. It doesn't have the lagginess that we've come to expect from the Amiga. It doesn't have the dopey animation. It doesn't have you cannot find a place where they cut corners in this game.
This looks like a console game.
It does. It looks like a console game.
It plays, well, we'll get to how it plays in terms of how playable it is, but in terms of it plays like a console game. It moves like a console game.
Now, why don't you tell me about what you like and what you don't like about this?
Well, everything you said I like so far. The characters are great, okay? I will say, out of the box, there's no women.
Right.
Which, it's pretty lame. Now, they had 2 data discs, like we mentioned. One, it was just all ladies, and then one with mixed doubles.
I think that was their plan from the beginning, to milk a little extra out of the customer.
But still, you could put 4 chicks in.
You could split this roster in half and have plenty of both.
Yeah, because and I like the idea that different people have different stats, which is nice. And I will say that variety of people that you've got to play, they all come from different nations.
I was going to say, it's also a variety. This is another thing that's rare in the Amiga sports world. You have a variety of cultures represented, a variety of skin tones.
Yeah.
It's very nice to see.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it works because tennis is a world game.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I like the court selections. I like everything about it. When you get to on the court, I wish there was more there are little touches that aren't there that would have been nice, like ball boy coming across, some movement in the crowd. You don't get that. The judge doing stuff.
I'm rating this against every other 16-bit tennis game.
But I mean, that would have been nice.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
And there's none of that. What you do have is a crowd. You have a fully drawn crowd.
Yeah.
They're all wearing different clothes. You've got a referee sitting there. You do have two. I assume that I guess they don't. I guess those are line judges there. You don't get any ball boys. You're right. But like I said, we've played so many games where they just half butt the crowd.
You're really essential to today. Yeah, you're right. And now I will say, I'm a big fan of. I believe it's Tennis Cup 2 is the one I like. Tennis game. I think that is a better game than this because you could they both have a similar problem. And the similar problem is, and this is the big problem with a lot of these games, like the computer comes out and destroys you.
Yeah.
The computer, you could play on pro or basically not pro. I don't care. You could put them on either one.
Right.
You can't, I could barely win any points off the computer. And I thought I was doing pretty well at the game. Now, when you start mastering your shots,
that's the key.
Maybe you could do a little better, but I did try to. I thought I was doing pretty well. This is better with humans.
This is a game. Of course, it's better with humans. This is a game that is programmed to be too difficult from the get-go. They should have really included just an easy mode. But I'm glad that they do include a mode like this because the computer is a challenge.
Yeah, it is.
But like you said, if you start mastering your shots, especially the lob shot, you bring them in close and you lob it over their head, or you bring it real close to the net, you can really do some cool things. This is a game that I was also awful at it. Didn't come close to beating the computer at any set. But I was able to score some points, and it was a game that I felt like, given time and given, like you said, some time to master the controls, this is a game that you can really feel like you can get a handle on.
The computer, the problem I had with the computer in this is the computer's shot making is unbelievable.
It's impeccable.
And it never misses,
right.
And it always gets these almost unreturnable shots.
That's right.
When you have a partner that can help you, then you're like, I won a game or two off the computer after playing this for a while. I sat in the night and played this for like 5 hours.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing that makes this game console quality is its addictive nature.
Yeah.
You can sit down every day. Before I came over this evening, I sat down to play it some more.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I just like playing this game.
What's your favorite surface, by the way? Do you have one?
I like the clay because you get more time.
Yeah.
You get more time.
Man, you play on that hard court.
Oh, it's gone.
Man, and you can't even hardly do anything. And also the computer serving is great. And the thing is, the computer will mix it up. Sometimes it'll hit the middle and sometimes it'll hit the outside.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I didn't really, even with the extra buttons, I couldn't dial in my serve the way that I wanted to.
I've turned on pro serves, which basically means you don't get a cursor when you serve.
Well,
and I could do it, but I wouldn't. I could successfully serve. Yes. Could I serve to win? No. And the computer serves to a point where it puts the ball at the placements. It's like you're playing Devon Lindell and you're me from high school.
Right.
Just a big lumbering doofus out there. The computer's difficulty is too. We've talked this a million times in Amiga games. I don't want to instantly feel like I suck and can never get better.
Right.
That's my gripe on that.
Right.
With all that said, the computer plays a fair game. It's not making impossible shots. The serving in this isn't as good as that Tennis Cup 2. Tennis Cup 2 lets you, when you throw the ball up, the cursor kind of swings out in the square, and it kind of lets you. It's trickier to play.
They're introducing a golf-like mechanic into it, and that may be for you or it may not be.
Yeah, I thought the Tennis Cup 2 had a better serve mechanic, but it's not like a big deal.
It can't touch this game graphically.
It's got pretty good graphics,
but it's not in the same league.
If they try to be realistic and not cartoony.
Right. This
cartoony is not the worst idea.
It's not. This game is just it's kind of knocking on that SNK door. It's got that cartoony look to it.
It does. It's honestly, I knew there was a Super Tennis game for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. And Super Tennis has nothing to do with this game.
And so I looked at it because I was like, I want to make a comparison. I was like, these don't compare at all.
And
it doesn't look as good either.
Now, given the fact that Tennis or Super Tennis was a launch title for the SNES in '91, I'm going to give it a little bit of side eye.
The rotation.
Yeah, and it's got the Mode 7 effects and stuff like this. But this game kills it. It kills it.
So you've played a few games of that one?
Yeah, that was the first thing I did because I was like, I want to see what the Super Nintendo version looks like. Hey, it's not the same game.
Really? So because it also is cartoony.
It's cartoony,
too,
but the colors aren't there. It looks drab. This game kills it.
This game, Does it have the look? Yes. Does it have this animation, the smoothness? Yes. Does it have the nice characters? It's got a lot going for it. It's got the 4-player. This is a prime example of a game that you're just going to play multiplayer at.
Yeah.
And I feel, and by the way, just not to bury this game, I feel very similar when it comes to stuff like the speed balls and stuff like that. I'd much rather play those with another person than I would the computer. We've played tons of games on the Amiga where the computer just wipes the floor with you.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know why that is. I don't know why they can't tone it down to give you a
I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to tune AI for different difficulty levels.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Just to go over a few of the things we didn't touch on, where we touched on just briefly. Like Boat said, they've got exhibition on any of the services, 1, 3, or 5 sets. They've got a complete league. You can have 4 to 8 players in a league. And only a few can be human control if you want. You can even watch the computer play itself in this, which is a cool feature. It's got league doubles, which is cool. Singles tournament. It's got a grand slam that combines all the major singles tournaments and you go all over the world. And you can have up to 10 humans playing this thing, which is pretty cool. And so it's got a lot of, I mean, is it like the most in-depth tennis simulator of all time? No, but it doesn't need to be. You know, this reminds me, like I said, a lot of those like old NES trivia games. They give you options to do some stuff, but you don't really need. It's like NBA Jam. You don't need like a year of play, a season-long play.
Exactly.
That's not how those games will work.
And you know, especially with tennis, if you play, I mean, these games are essentially the same length as a real tennis game.
Yeah,
they are long matches, especially if you go all out and you play all 5 sets or whatever. So, I think, you know, in terms of what I would like to have seen. You know, I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more of a cutscene when you go to each country. You know, just something welcoming you in.
Did you try the different?
I tried the Grand Slam. Yeah. They do give you a little picture of the country, which is, I mean, I'm really digging for things not to like about this game.
You get the little flags and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's nice.
Listen, what can I say? I'm with you on everything except for the difficulty. I think we're both on the same side of on that. Now, let me ask you. Of course, you know, we're not going to sit here forever talking about tennis game, but there is one thing that I think is important we need to talk about is the controls. You had the option of 1, 2, or 6 button controls. Which did you try, and which did you like?
I tried the 1 and the 2.
Okay, so what did you think? And explain to the people how they felt for you.
Well, I didn't see a big difference, actually, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I always felt like I wasn't sure when the lob, how the lob worked, and I assumed that was what the second button did. I did not try. I don't remember seeing the 6-button option. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough. But yeah, this is
you may not have had, probably because you didn't have a controller that had 6 buttons.
Maybe not. And so I really feel like the controls are an 8 out of 10. You know, but again,
it's just like any tennis game. You sort of have to figure out where's the drop shot, where's the lob, where's the smash.
The thing that I would have liked to have seen is what Mario Tennis on the GPA, and I'm sure all the tennis games do, is it's like the more you hold down the button, the harder you hit the shot.
Yeah.
It seems like that would have been pretty easy to implement, and that would have been a way to kind of not have to use 6 buttons to get the total control that you want.
I can understand, listen, I bow down to a game that gives you that option.
Yeah.
Just because I always want, even games on like the Dreamcast that don't give you all the buttons.
No.
Because you really shouldn't need all those buttons, but it's neat. I always wondered, like, how would this work? It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Having all the shots on different buttons, I kind of like it.
It's the Intellivision baseball thing, you know?
Yeah, give it to us,
right.
so we don't have to take it.
Right.
I mostly played with the 2, because that's the one I started off with. But, hey, you've got options, and this is one I would love, and this is one to mark down for Boat Fest. I would love to get on the featured table for an hour, 4 players of this going, sit down and play. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just to try it out. I would like to do that that's one thing I'm going to try to do at both of this year, is to try some of these games. I'm going to go back, and I've got a big list of them that I'm putting together, of games that have multiplayer.
Right.
So we can all sit down and try these games and hook up, because I'm sure we could get the gimmick.
That was one of the coolest things at the cave, was having the 2, the ST and the Amiga, linked up and playing 4-player Lotus. So I'm with you on that.
You may be surprised to learn this reviewed pretty well, but not as well as you might think. Amiga Computing gave this an 80. So it's funny when some of these reviewed it, because some of these reviewed it like over a year after it was released, for whatever reason.
I guess maybe a budget re-release.
Amiga Computing gave it an 80. Amiga format gave it a 90. CU Amiga gave it an 85. The One gave it a 93. The overall average score for this one was an 87. I'm okay with that, provided that the points it was docked was because of either the lack of ladies and or the difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise, this is an A title.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, listen, I'm very comfortable playing Tennis Cup 2 or whatever that game is. I like that game. Okay, it's also difficult, but it's almost like you talked about Mario Tennis and Wii Tennis. That's like two different types of tennis.
Right.
Like, this is sort of like that. It gives you a different. It's like playing Madden or playing 10-yard fight. I mean, they're with football games. They give you a different feeling when you play them. That's the way I feel about this. This can coexist. This is a game the Amiga needed, frankly.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, it came in 1995.
Right, but I mean, I like the idea that you get a cartoony. This is the kind of game that isn't normally made on this machine.
Yes, you're
right.
right.
We've played a lot of sports games. Some are good or some are bad. But, like, we haven't played a lot of games on the Amiga where it was like chibi sports or little cute cartoon guy sports. Not the worst idea.
Yeah, especially while everything else just swings so hard the other way with speedball and brutal sports football and stuff like that.
Which, I mean, and the thing is,
and those are fine too, you know.
But those are actually better.
Yeah.
But part of the reason is they're not. What I'm saying is there's room for a non-realistic player in the game here.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Cincy. Everybody loves Cincy. Well, the guys are teeny tiny.
Yeah.
You know,
there's nothing realistic about that game, but it's great.
Yeah. I thought it was real good. Did we get any reviews on this one?
We got one. We got the venerable Pajako 6502. Happy birthday, by the way, to Pajako.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
74 years old.
Yeah. He received his Kickstart 2 ZX Spectrum Next on his birthday.
I saw a bunch of people getting those, and everyone, congratulations. I love it.
He says, a simple game with a lot of good things going on, but there's one fatal problem.
Uh-oh.
I suck at this.
Yeah, that is the fatal.
But I don't hate it for that. It's fun. The graphics are fantastic. This could have easily been at home on the SNES or Mega Drive. There is a good selection of characters, all with their own apparent differences. I love that they are not all super ripped athletes in their 20s, although some female characters could have been fun. Tournament play was brilliantly done, as you can choose to step in and play any of the characters during any point, so it isn't a case of playing and going out and waiting for the game to end so you can play again. It is quite tough to get a volley going, as you really have to be lucky in guessing where your opponent will hit the ball to, and sometimes I feel like there isn't enough time to get the ball to hit it back, which is like real tennis. Boat kindly put me onto the notion that playing doubles in the game becomes instantly easier. Still tricky, but volleys tended to last longer than 2 or 3, and I actually won some matches. Audio is pretty good, and you don't feel the lack of any music while playing. Overall, this is a top-notch game for the Amiga, and certainly one I'm glad to have discovered because of this show. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, you know, he brought up something I want to mention real quick, and that is the data disc, because I'm kind of briefly touched on them. So, as I mentioned, there were 2 data discs, one that were just the ladies, and one that's mixed doubles. Both are great. I'm sorry you didn't get to see them. I only saw the ladies, the mixed doubles one, but the girls are just like the dudes. They're all varied. They're all cartoony. They fit right in. Same artist, same stuff. And mixed doubles does add to the fun of the game. These are available. The thing I saw, I think it was like a super pack that had all the data discs mixed in. So your mileage may vary. I just played mixed doubles, but I think I could have played just ladies. But if you go out there, there's a WHD with all these things rolled in. That's the one I would go after, Boat. Any more reviews?
That's it. That's all we got.
I will say I looked on eBay, Boat, to see what this was going for. I didn't see any box copies of this at all. The only thing I saw was a disc copy. It was a real disc, and they were asking $10. So if you're looking for the disc, if you got a box copy on this and you're happen to catch this show, drop us a note down below the video here. I'd be interested to see like where you got it, how much it cost. Because like I said, I've never seen one in the flesh, baby. I'd like to see one. But overall, Boat, your final analysis?
Good.
A winner?
A winner.
Are you a sketchy tech? Do you have the right tools for the job? Have there been incidents? Next time, don't try to fix it yourself. Send your broken Amiga to Retro Rewind. Get a full diagnostic, a reasonable estimate, and the peace of mind knowing that your machine is in the hands of real technicians with decades of experience and cutting-edge repair equipment. Save 10% off your repair with the promo code AMIGOS10. Thank you to RetroRewind.ca for supporting this episode.
Amiga News.
All right, Aaron, we start with 10 Mark. He's back. The Amiga CD32, Commodore's last machine, explored.
Yes.
Now, I know, the first time I really ever heard about the Amiga was when we were first hanging out, and you told me that you just bought a CD32 on eBay.
Yes. I had a very similar situation to Doug. Did you watch this video?
I have not seen it yet.
I watched this one when it came up because first of all, I didn't know Doug didn't have a CD32. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Because Doug's got it all, brother. He got one that was non-functional, and Doug, who you keep in mind, Doug of the he put a glaive job with a soldering iron one time, but he did manage to adjust the lasers in this that got to work. I bought one before. It's been years and years ago. It's before we did the show. I got one on eBay, and when I got it, I paid full price, but full price back in those days was like, I don't know, $300. And when I got it, it didn't work. And I called the lady up and listened. I was like, this thing's screwed up. I'm going to have to stand here and fix it. And so we worked out a deal where I paid half.
Mm-hmm.
And then I opened it up. By the way, I've never seen one my whole life. And I opened it up, and the ribbon cable going from the board to the actual CD device had come undone. Mm-hmm. So once I plugged that, although there were other issues that I ran into later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's what got mine working. But this is Doug sort of exploring and putting over some of these tiles. He was like, listen, Gloom, this thing's great. Everything optimist. He went through some different games on here, and he's going to give his the terrible fire treatment. It's great video. I'm happy for Doug that he actually got one of these. So this is one of this. He mentions this is pretty much the last thing he was after because he's not going to stop. The CD32 is a lot like the Amiga 600. They were sort of the ugly stepchildren of the Amiga line, but now they're sought after thanks to modern technology. And the Terrible Fire, which gives you the choice, you could get a Terrible Fire that just gives you a SD solution and some memory, or you can get one that gives the CD32 an 030, which, geez, wow. Which is what he's going to get, of course. If you've got the money to juice these things up, and the 600's the same way, you got something there. And so congratulations to Doug. It's a good watch, as it always is when Doug does these. I was happy for the old boy because it's nice to see someone getting a new goodie. He is also, by the way, is an NTSC. Now this I did find amusing. Of course, he's like, well, this won't play PAL because he goes, but I can just run it here. Heck, you never look at the bottom of the screen anyway. That shtick. Yeah. And remember, Doug, all you have to do is give it the 3-button salute. I kept telling him, no, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
Here's a little tidbit for what it's worth. There are some games that won't work. There are PAL games that flat out won't work on an NTSC CD32. Now, on a long time ago on a forum I was on, it was probably the same old forums we always use, the British one, English Amiga board. Someone had found a pin you could jumper to ground, and when you did that, it would convince the unit it was a PAL unit. I mean, it wouldn't show the screen in PAL, but you could play games that wouldn't work on an NTSC, and I put one in mine, stupidly. This is back when I still had the jack.
Oh, yeah.
And it did work, but I mean, they're not in PAL.
Right.
So, so what would be nice is to have a nice modern screen or something that would detect PAL.
Well, that's the thing. I've got that CRT that does both NTSC and PAL, so I'm in business.
Really?
Yeah.
How nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you've got the real nice one then, don't you? So, but that's good stuff. I enjoyed it. I recommend it, Boat.
Now, Aaron, we have no more news this week, but it's time for Boat Story Time.
It's Boat Story Time. Go ahead, Boat.
So, I don't know what caused me to sort of get this. I know what it was, is when I went to the cave. Okay, whenever I go overseas, I always get a hankering when I see all those Amigas set up, and I'm like, man, I want to have an Amiga set up in my basement.
Yep.
And so
this is so much like the getting the boat story,
right?
And the VR. That's what's.
And so I came home, and I was like, man, I've got this 1000, and I've messed around with this Gotek for years. So many people have been helpful. Dave built this custom enclosure.
Yeah, GoTech's great.
Yeah, except when it doesn't work, which was all the time on
It
my
works.
1000.
It never doesn't work.
You've never apparently used it on my 1000 before.
Oh, well, it worked for mine.
So you don't even have a keyboard for your 1000.
You can still load games on it. You just can't use anything that uses the keyboard. I've got a keyboard. It's just like it's all gunked up. It's real bad.
So anyway, I was like, I want something. It's time to stop being cheap. It was basically what it all came down to. Okay.
Boy, you ain't kidding.
And so, because oftentimes to get something good, you have to spend some money.
I've heard that, yeah.
And so I was like, I started looking around, and I remembered hearing about the Parcero, talking about that on the...
We covered that a long time
when
ago,
it came out. And lo and behold, just a couple months ago, what hones in but the Parcero 2, better edition.
Yeah.
Okay? And I see that David is currently building these things, right?
Yeah.
So I get on there and I'm like, all right, if I can get one of these, maybe I can get me a Rejuvenator board. And I looked online and I was like, Rejuvenators, they don't exist. They're not around.
Yeah, they don't exist at all.
And so I was like, well, and I was reading the Amiga Loves forum, which is the place to go to get all this information.
We love.
And then I was like, and he was like, and Joe the Zombie finally put all the pieces together and he worked out how to do this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I'm going to hit up old Joe the
We
Zombie.
know Joe.
Long-time supporter of the show, member of the Amigos Game Selection Committee. And I was like, hey, I'm getting this Parcero. Think you could make me a Rejuvenator? And he's like, well, I got to get the parts together. So let me get the parts together. But he says that by June, by Boat Fest, he's going to have the Rejuvenator built for me.
Wow.
I'm going to take that bad boy with the 1000 directly to Jason Warren's and have him install the Rejuvenator. Because let me tell you something.
You're not going to install it yourself?
Installing the Parcero, whoop, it's just you put in the old sidecar and it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Installing the Rejuvenator, it takes several degrees in electrical engineering.
Yeah.
You got to put things on post, you're readjusting things, you're slotting things in.
When you spend that much money on stuff, you just call Frank.
That's right.
Listen,
That's
Frank,
right.
we need one of your guys or you to take care of this for us.
Exactly.
And we'll say, what a lucky boy you are. Because you know all these guys that can help you. You knew Joe the Zombie,
right.
you know Amiga Love, you know Frank, you know everybody.
That's right. Now, I will say, I couldn't resist. At first, I was like, I'm going to wait until it's all done before I fire it. No, that lasted 5 seconds.
Yeah, because we saw the picture.
I slammed that thing into the side of the 1000. I flipped it on. Boom. It's got complete WHD load. All ready to go. It's got the entire Fred Fish collection. It's got the entire WHD load collection.
Yeah.
And the best thing about it is, there's some games that won't run under 1.3, right?
Oh yeah.
So the Parcero on the side has a little switch, and you switch it. There's 4 positions: 1.3, 2.0, diagnostic, and 3.1.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
And all you have to do is just switch it and turn it on, bam, it loads.
Yeah, because all that stuff on the 1000 would be software, which
Right.
is probably is it on the card or on the board?
Well, it's all on the SD card that fits in the Parcero.
That's one of the few times where that comes in handy.
Exactly.
Now, of course, thankfully, the WHC mostly will ignore your Kickstarter. But I mean, I've never had one that didn't boot up because of what I was running it under.
Well, there are some games that just don't do well with 1.3.
Now, what was stunning to me is when you loaded up Lionheart, which I stupidly thought required the ECS, but it does not.
Listen, I've fired up. The only thing that I've tried that has not worked was Super Tennis Champs. And I think it's just because I don't have a Mega Chip RAM, but Lotus 2 runs like a dream. Really, the 1000 is so much more of a capable machine, aside from RAM, which you could upgrade.
And how much RAM did that thing add?
So it added 8 megs or 8 gigs, 8 something.
8 gigs?
8,000.
Certainly not.
8 terabytes of RAM, I think is what it put in.
It added enough to run stuff.
It added, I think it's 8 meg.
How is it? I mean, have you noticed that now that thing doesn't give you any sort of speed boost?
No, in fact, I ordered it with, you can order one with an accelerator.
Really?
But I did not.
Because you're getting your Rejuvenate.
Well, because there are some games that don't play well with an accelerated Amiga, and you can't switch between a 68,000 and more. And so I really want to achieve, I'm really interested in the older games, the 1.3 games. And after talking to Joe, David, when I told him I was going to combine this with a Rejuvenator, he sent me a message, 20-page email, okay? Answer the following questions in complete sentences. And so
He wanted information about the Amiga from you.
And so what I did was I copied and pasted that email and said, Joe, help me out. And he's like, okay, question number 1. You need to tell David you want this. Copy and paste this answer.
Yeah,
and I was like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so he's got, because there's real-time clocks on both devices. They need to play well together. There's all kinds of stuff that I need to make sure. And so it's all good.
Yeah.
Everything's awesome. The Parcero 2 is the what's the thing that we love on the Coco?
The SD.
The Coco SDC.
Coco SDC,
It is
yeah.
the Coco SDC of the Amiga. It is
For the Amiga
fan-freaking-tastic.
1000.
Well, there's a 500 version that is currently in development.
No, I like the fact that it takes over the kickstart.
It does it all.
See, I mean, if my 1000 had a keyboard that worked, I'd get me one, and I'm cheap, brother. But my keyboard's so jacked up, and I'm not going to be the guy that digs into this thing. It's too messed up.
That's right, and Jason mentions the Rejuvenator, which is the whole reason why I'm getting the Rejuvenator is for PAL and for...
Really?
Yeah, it gives you PAL, and it also gets rid of the chip RAM issue.
How neat. Well, we're definitely going to follow that story. I told Boat, this is when we're going to have to shoot a series of videos.
Oh, yeah.
Like, listen, we're going to be like all the big boys. They're going to do hardware stuff now.
That's right.
Which is
We're all in
scared
on
to
hardware.
death. Maybe we could get a ringer to come in and explain it to people. You know, while we're talking, I've got nothing going on like this, but I will say this. As we near the end of the year, I'm going to get this in, Boat. We are coming close to the end of the year, which means we're going to pick all of our favorite games from all the various shows. On New Year's Eve, myself, the Brand, and Boat are going to get together, and we're going to have an end-of-the-year spectacular. So if you're in the Discord, I would love it if you would go into the R. Sinclair, the Coco Show, and the Atari ST areas, and I've got polls up for you to vote on your favorite game of the year, and then places that you could leave comments on what you liked, what you didn't like, what your least favorite game of the year is. The game of the year for ARG is much more expansive because we played about 1,000 games, but there is a list in there. And Boat set up a nice layer where you can voice your opinion on what your favorites and your not so favorites were. And we'll also get something like that going for the Amigos, for the Amiga before it's all said and done. Again, much like ARG, we've played 50-some games this year, and so you'll have those to mull over. But it should be a lot of fun. Big year-end New Year's Eve spectacular, and we're going to get into it for the holidays, and I'm quite excited for that show.
That's right, and of course, in the holiday spirit, we received our first Amigos Christmas card just today in the mail.
Oh,
we want
nice.
to thank Duncan Stiles, who sent us this very attractive card. Look what's on the back there.
Oh, I know those guys.
Yeah, our visage. And inside, to the Amigos, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from Duncan.
Thank you, Dunk.
So,
That's
Dunk,
awful nice.
Yeah, thank you, man.
You know, and Dunk has been one of our good friends for so many years now, and he's done many things for us over the years. We really appreciate you, Dunk. And we appreciate everybody for coming out and hanging with us. I appreciate everybody from Amiga Live just rolling in here. Thank you ever so much. We've had a good time. I think it's been a good year, Boat, and more good things to come.
Speaking
hopefully.
of more good things to come, what are we playing next week?
Oh, man. Who knows? Or dares to dream. If I can get my mouse down there. Here we go. You think I got it right this week?
It looks good, man. Super Delivery Boy, The Holiday Shift. It's our Christmas episode. You got to play some Super Delivery Boy.
Have you ever played Super Delivery Boy The Holiday Shift?
No.
Have you ever played Super Delivery Boy The Not Holiday Shift?
I think I have played Super Delivery Boy, and it is right up my alley.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's dandy. I'm looking forward to it. I like it when the holidays roll around, but I hate the cold weather.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's killing me. How many times do you have to scrape your windows this week?
Well,
Boy?
I have a garage.
Oh, yeah.
So
A garage.
I know. I'm living the high life.
I call it a car hole.
Guys, thanks as always for listening. AmigosPodcast.com/Patreon/do it. We'll see you next week.
Don't
Until
add
then,
to it.
Adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/AmigosPodcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.